This is a video tutorial on how to install a center stand on a Honda CTX700. Now my particular model is the N model, but this will work for all variants of the CTX700 motorcycle. Now this stand is originally for the NC700S. Now that's the important one. This stand is compatible with the CTX700, but if you get the NC700X model, the stand will be too long. So avoid the X and get the one that ends in S. I'll put a link in the description of where I got this from, but basically this stand kit has the main center stand, a couple of springs, a couple of screws, another rod, and I also purchased the optional center stand stopper for the X model /S. To install it, things you will need are a thing of Loctite so your screws don't come undone, some multi-purpose grease, an Allen key which will be used in this silver screw, and obviously a spanner that'll get used in this one. Now this is optional, a ratchet strap and some strong but thin rope. Now you'll use these two in conjunction to be able to put the spring on, and I'll show you that later in the video.
Now if you've got a shorty exhaust on your bike or plan to put one on there in the future, this metal part here will have to get cut off the frame, so that way the stand will fit on the bike. So you won't need to put this rubber cap in there. But if you've just got the stock exhaust, you might as well put the cap in there, you never know. But you won't see it at all, so it's not really needed. But to put it in, just get a bit of dishwashing detergent on the rubber and squish it in.
The next thing you want to do is with these two springs is assemble them together. It goes inside the thicker one and just push that in. And when you put this together, you want both of the hooks facing in the same direction. So like that. See? Right, I'll just do a quick rundown of how this all goes together. So you got the center stand with the kick part sticking up, right? This bit here essentially goes through here, and before we put it in, that's what we use the multi-purpose grease for. As you can see, it's metal rubbing on metal. So this part here, you want to put some grease on there, because once you've got this assembled, you're never going to pull it apart again to grease it, so you do it beforehand. There's a little screw, and this silver one, the Allen key, will go through into here and lock onto the frame of the bike. Oh, and also there's like two metal lugs that'll come down that this all goes through. And this little screw will sit over here on this side, and that'll screw in, and that's where your springs will hook in at the top. At the bottom is when you will stretch this out and have it connected to here on your stand.
Alright, so this is my Honda CTX700N, and this is before I've installed the stand. And as you can see underneath here, it's just stock standard, no stand installed. I've also got the shorty exhaust on the bike as well. So the first thing you want to do is take off your shorty exhaust if you have one, or if you've got the stock standard exhaust, you need to remove that. For the shorty exhaust, you just simply loosen this one bolt here and it will come off. With your stock standard exhaust, there's a couple of bolts you've got to remove, and there's tutorials out there you can watch for that. Alright, so we're going to install the black bolt into the frame, and this is the one that holds the springs in. And whilst you're under here, have a look on the frame for these two parts with holes in them. That's where the center stand installs into. Alright, so we'll install in this hole here, just above that larger hole we just looked at, this screw here for the springs. Now don't forget to use some Loctite on the threads. Now these bolts can be a bit tricky to get in, but once you've got them in and you screw them in, they're fine. And don't forget to use that Loctite, otherwise when you're riding around, all those vibrations will cause all of the bolts that you've just put in to loosen up and fall out. Alright, so moving to the other side of the bike, this is where the pole will slot straight through those holes we looked at earlier, and you'll notice there's a screw hole there. Obviously the center stand would be installed first before we put that in, and don't forget to grease this part up as well. Alright, so now it's time to just put a bit of grease on the center stand hole that goes through it, and just wipe it around with a cloth to make sure you've got a nice even coat. Now when you thread the pole through, you'll probably get some excess grease come off, so it is always handy to have a rag to wipe that off. So you need to align this part of the pole so you can see the screw hole, and then just make sure your stand can actually move and it's actually installed correctly, ensuring that the pole goes all the way through to the other side and you can see it through the hole. Now the next step would normally be to install this screw here, that's that silver bolt with the Allen key head, but I didn't realise at the time that the stand support kit actually has a different bolt that you will need to screw through here, so we'll cut to that footage of installing that now. So inside the packet for the center stand stopper, you will find the actual center stand stopper with an adjuster bolt already threaded through it. And on the back of the instruction booklet you'll find the long Allen key head bolt that you use to attach the stopper to the bike. So the center stand stopper will get screwed in with that long bolt through that top hole, and you don't use that other screw. Now the center stand stopper just goes in there like so, and with the two nuts you use it to adjust how high the stand can go before it hits onto the nuts, and that'll prevent the center stand from touching your chain. So without the center stand support kit, this is what your center stand will do. It will touch your chain, so make sure you install it on your bike. Installing the center stand stopper will be a lot easier if you remove the plastic panel that's in front of it by removing the two Allen key bolts. The panel is then easily removed so you can gain unobstructed access to the center stand stopper. Once it's secured in place, you can make minor adjustments to the height of the center stand stopper by adjusting the bolt. Now this will ensure that the center stand doesn't interfere with the chain on the bike. And now we'll install the spring to stop the stand from flopping down. You'll notice on the spring you've got the long hooks on one end and then the shorter hooks on the other end. The shorter ones will go to the bottom of the stand and the longer ones will go to the top. So as per the instructions, the way you install the hooks are so that they are facing down in that direction. And then you put them over the black bolt that you put in first and make sure that both ends are actually on the bolt. So the next part is to put the spring on the bottom part of the stand. Now it's very stiff, to be able to try and put that down is going to be impossible, so what you will need to use is some string and a ratchet strap. Now with a ratchet strap you will have one end which you can adjust the length of, and also one end that is a fixed length. And on this one I've got two hooks, but I've got this little U-shaped bracket that I've put on there and I can't get it off, so just ignore that bracket. And it's also advisable to have a nice soft cloth so you don't scratch your bike. Now with the longer end of the ratchet strap, simply tie it into a basic figure 8 knot, and then we're going to slip that over the end of your swing arm. Now you want to make sure it's on nice and firm and on so it's not going to slip off and cause damage to your bike or yourself. So you want to go ahead and adjust it so this end of the strap is just long enough to almost reach the stand. Now I've just tied a loop in the string by making a loop and then just tying a figure 8 knot at the bottom of it, and this made a nice strong loop to attach the spring and the ratchets to, and the loop wasn't that big, it's about the size of my finger. So you want to go ahead and just double check to make sure both of the springs are attached to the nut. Then attach the loop to the springs and around the ratchet strap hook. Now we just ratchet down on the strap to tension those springs to line them up for the stand. Now be careful not to stand directly behind the motorcycle, just in case something slips and the strap goes flying in one direction. Once you've done the ratchet strap enough to pull those springs back, you'll be able to line it up with the stand. Now we can see the spring is on the bottom of the center stand. Now we can take this string off and release the tension. Now it's time to reinstall that panel we took off earlier, ensuring we put both of the screws back into it. Alright, so when it comes time to putting the exhaust back on, if you've got a shorty exhaust, you will have to modify the center stand so that way it will fit on with the exhaust. If you have the stock standard exhaust, then you will be fine putting the exhaust straight on without modifying the stand. So you can modify this part quite easily just using a file, and I did that and it took about 5 or 10 minutes to modify this completely. So just use the file and cut across in an angle until you've cut all the way through, and then repeat on the other side. And as you can see with the piece cut out, it doesn't affect the shorty exhaust at all. So it's pretty hard to try and lift this bike up on the center stand by taking the weight off the back wheel, and there's nowhere to really grab. So I got this carabiner and attached it to the back there, and then used that as a pretty decent hand grip to assist in an upwards motion to pull with my hands as I'm pushing down on my foot on the center stand to put the bike up. So now the bike's up on the center stand, chain maintenance is a breeze, and it's definitely worth your while doing this quick and easy modification to your bike. Hopefully you've got a lot out of it and you can do this now on your own bike, and I'll see you guys next time. Laters.